giving us that Kodesh Mikra that you commanded us to keep, Yahweh. Yahweh, we ask that you open up our eyes and ears and understanding, Yahweh, so that we can see the things that we were not able to see before, as well as have a spiritual remembrance, Yahweh, to remember those things that we've offended in, Yahweh, so that we can bring it to you, Yahweh, and get our account wiped clean according to your tremendous mercy, Yahweh, that you have afforded us, Yahweh. Yahweh, we also ask that you not only wipe it clean, Yahweh, but also give us a heart and a desire, Yahweh, to continue walking in a manner, Yahweh, that does not cause so much sin, Yahweh. And walk in a manner that we don't have to reconcile every year. Every year we should be getting better. So we know, Yahweh, that you chasten those that you love, so we accept the chastening that you put forth in our lives, Yahweh, and we ask that you also allow us to have an adult spirit, Yahweh, that can take the chastening as a lesson and not a spiritually childish spirit, Yahweh, that gets upset when things don't work our way, Yah. Yah, these things, Yah, we humbly come before you. We make no demands. We make full supplication, Yahweh, in the name of Yahshua HaMashiach. In his name, through him, we pray. Amen. All right. Shabbat Shalom. My name is Adon Yasharah, my brother Yonatan Yasharah.
Shabbat Shalom, Aki.
Shabbat Shalom, Ak. Shalom, Ak. It is Shabbaton. It is Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, or Kafarim. Today is the holiest day of the year. The reason being that it is the holiest day of the year because it is the day that all the children of Yasharal should be at one, should be all together with the same focus, which is to reconcile the transgressions and the missing of the mark throughout the year, bringing those things before the Father and getting our wedding garment white clean, because we are sinners, we deserve death, and it's only Yah and his word that can cleanse us. Every other holy day is a feast, is a celebration, but this is not a celebration. This is not something to celebrate. This is something for us to take very seriously, because we don't know how many more of these atonements we are going to be allowed, how many more opportunities we're going to have in our individual lives or as a nation, these atonements. So we need to take that very seriously. We are to fast and we are to reflect on our choices, our decisions, and our mistakes throughout the year, and really spend the entire day. It's a Sabbathon, so we're not supposed to be working. So there's no reason why we can't put all of our mind and our attention into how imperfect and how filthy of rags we are, so that once we actually look at all the errors we've made throughout the year, we can have a real true vision of who we are, because we always like to look at ourselves in the best light. We always want to get the camera in that best angle, and we want to wear our nicest outfits and press our clothes and speak nice words and be viewed a certain way. But that is a representative of who we are. Yahweh knows who we really are in the heart, and until we know who we really are, because the Most High already knows the errors that we have made in the transgression, but he wants us to acknowledge it. And for us to be able to get those wiped away, he wants us to actually acknowledge the sinful nature that we have. And every year you get into it, you're supposed to get better at it. But what will end up happening is you gain more understanding into the righteousness of this law, and you see how much more error you have made. And that allows you to dig even deeper into the things that you are doing. And what is supposed to happen is that will allow you to be more humble and allow you to walk more circumspectly, because you have taken the time to really look at the things that you have done. And it's also supposed to increase your mercy for one another, because after receiving forgiveness for all the things you have done, despite the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that he has given you individually, you still make mistakes. So when you're dealing with somebody that you can tell does not study the way you study, does not spend the time with the Spirit the way you spend, which is evident in their actions, in their words, then you should be more apt to be merciful and understanding that, hey, look, I study this. We read this word publicly twice a week at least, and every month and every holy day, in addition to our own individual study, and yet we still stumble and fall in holes. So we're going to first open up. We're going to take a look at the law. We're going to open up in Leviticus, Wayakra, chapter 23, and we're going to read verses 26 through 32. And before we do that, Brother Yonatan, anything you want to add on your understanding, your reflection for Kafarim?
Well, of course, we know that attitude of, like, being introspective is just not something that we want to do only today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's something that we want to embody all throughout the year, being reflective. This is just definitely symbolizing the culmination of all of that. All the holy days represent something in that full plan that Yah has for us. So you have Passover and unleavened bread, us being revealed to the bread of heaven, and us shedding our own leaven. And then it goes into the Spirit being placed upon us. And then on Pentecost, or Shavuot, and then trumpets hearing the call, or even us trumpeting that call, what that Spirit has been put on us for. And then once we all, come into that understanding, we can accept the atonement that's been made for us. And then the tabernacles, Yah's tabernacle coming down to upon us. So, like tabernacles represents that call. Does that mean that we only make that call on tabernacles?
Right.
No, of course not.
Right.
It's a year-round thing. So this definitely is reflective of, this is just Yah bringing to reminders what we should be doing, all year round.
Con. So we're going to open up in Leviticus, Wayakra, chapter 23, and we're going to read verses 26 through 32.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, also in the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and you shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And you shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahweh your Elohim. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people.
All right, so what's that Hebrew word for afflicted? Should be anah.
H6031. I believe you're right.
All right, so that Hebrew word is anah, and anah is idea of looking down or browbeating, to depress, literally or figuratively, transitively or intransitively. Abase self, afflict self, answer self, chasten self, deal hardly with, defile, exercise, force, gentleness, humble self. And when you see that word defile, you tie that in with what they did when they fasted. They threw ashes on themselves with sackcloth, burlap, which is not comfortable. Humble self, ravish, sing for, speak mistakes, submit self, weaken self in any wise. So when it says the soul that be not afflicted, that shall not be afflicted, shall be cut off from his people, you can say the soul that is not humbled in that day, he shall be cut off from among his people. So humbled, afflicted, chastening self, he who does not take that opportunity to utilize that will be cut off from among his people. Go ahead.
Verse 30, and whatsoever soul it be that does any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Shabbat of rest. And you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even shall you celebrate your Shabbat.
All right, so we see that word Sabbath a lot, but the word Sabbathon is in here. It just was translated to a different word. It was translated to the word rest. So it's saying that you're going to have a Shabbat of Sabbathon. So it's telling you what type of Sabbath you're having, a Sabbathon. So it's letting you know that it's not falling on a Sabbath day. It cannot fall on a Sabbath day. Or else it'd be like you're having a Sabbath of Sabbaths. It doesn't make any sense. It's telling you what type of rest day this is. It is a holy day that is treated like a Sabbath. So that word rest is Sabbathon, which is H7677, which is a Sabbatism or special holiday, a rest day. So we know that this day cannot fall on a Sabbath day. And if you follow a true ancient calendar, it's 364 days, 52 weeks, 12 months of 7-day weeks. And it's broke into those 4 seasons. So everything is perfect. Everything is in perfect order. So it would never run onto a Sabbath day. And none of the holy days fall on a Sabbath day. And that is by design, because the Sabbath is one of the first things that was sanctified. He sanctified that 7th day and hallowed it and separated it from all other days. Let's move on to Nehemiah chapter 9. Nehemiah chapter 9. So, you know, in the Torah, it doesn't come out and just clearly say, you shall not eat any food or you shall fast. Now, in the originals, you know, documents or whatever, I don't know. But at least in the King James Version, it doesn't tell you that specifically. But what we do have is we have examples of righteousness, of Israel being in the same situation, being sinful, being punished, and then coming to the Father for forgiveness and to be cleansed. And we did the same action every single time. We fasted and we prayed. We had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, I didn't know if you mentioned, you know, since what I thought you were going to mention just now about since there be a fast, that is something that we cannot do on the Sabbath, because we cannot afflict ourselves on the Sabbath.
Right.
On our solemn occasion, you know, we have to afflict ourselves on the day that Yahweh put aside for us to do that on, you know, as far as the Sabbath on, because it's not on the Sabbath, it's on a day of the week, you know. So I want to bring that up because I thought you probably would be key to this, you know, dealing with why we're not supposed to have it on the Sabbath.
Right. It's unlawful to fast on the Sabbath. So we know that they can't have an atonement on the day of Sabbath.
Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse 1. Now in the 24th day of this month, the children of Yasharal were assembled with fasting and with sackcloths and earth upon them.
All right, so this is the 24th day of this month, whatever month that is. It could have been the first month, the 7th month, don't know. I have to read further to see exactly when it was. But either way, they are assembled together and they are fasting with sackcloths and earth upon them. And this lets you know they're afflicting themselves to be heard in prayer. Now, Brother Yonatan brought up that point, that this is not the only time that you're supposed to look inward at yourself and reflect on your mistakes and to ask for forgiveness and to show the Father how serious you are by afflicting your own self, by chastening, by punishing your own self. Go ahead. So we're about to see why they're doing this.
Verse 2, and the seed of Yasharal separated themselves from all strangers and stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers.
So they confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. And in doing so, and asking for remembrance and forgiveness of this, they are fasting. They are putting on uncomfortable clothes, burlap, sackcloth. And they're putting earth upon them, dirt and ashes and all types of things. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've seen, you know, the mention of forgiving your father's sins too. I asked them forgiveness of your father's sins.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly do you think is the significance of that?
Okay.
Is it just understanding that they were sin, or is it something else to it?
Well, yeah, it is also understanding that they're sins, but also can they pray for themselves? They can't. They can't pray for themselves. Also, we have several types of curses right now. We have the curses that we brought into our own lives for the decisions, the transgressions, reaping what we sowed. We also have generational curses that has nothing to do with us. That was before us. That was the mistakes of our forefathers. So a righteous man is gonna remember his forefathers, remember those that had made mistakes before us. They can't speak for themselves, and also hope that we can be alleviated for some things that had nothing to do with us, that we didn't physically do. We didn't agree to that covenant and break that covenant. We didn't do that until after we reconfirmed our covenant and broke the covenant. Jonathan, you got anything?
Oh yeah, I agree. Yah has pretty much made the sons aware of the father's sins. Like, your offspring is suffering a little because of what the fathers have done. So yeah, I definitely agree that the significance of us confessing that our fathers are wrong is like Yah's controversy with Israel, is justified. You know what I'm saying? Like, he feels wrong and all that. Like, some of that can be appeased by us saying, forgive our forefathers.
Right.
We confess that they've done this to you, so that we don't fall under the same condemnation that they fell under, or that we rightfully should be receiving. We could probably stay some of that by through confession.
Right. And how we can stay even further curses is because it also lets us know the mind frame of understanding that things we do affects our children. So when you're confessing the sins of your forefathers, you can't confess the sins of your forefathers that have fallen on you and not consider the things that you're doing that are going to fall on your children. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, I wanted to add to it. All those are very good points, because if you remember the past, expect to continue to confessing your father's sins, you're not forgetting what they did, so you don't walk in the footsteps of what they treaded.
Right.
So you can walk the right path and not step where they step, and the only way you're going to do that is remember the mistakes of what they did and don't continue that. So children that come behind us, Yah willing, will not walk in their father's footsteps that were wrong. They will only take the right path, what the Father says. So it's, how you say, practicing the truth, not falling into the error of our forefathers.
Right.
And I see something else kind of stood out there too, is that it says they separated themselves from all strangers. So I guess that's them, because this is during Tabernacles actually. So at the end of the 7th month, and on the 24th day of that month, they were like doing, you know what? Oh yeah, this is outside of Tabernacles. I was seeing if this was connected to the part where it's like, is all those Israelites born?
Tomorrow 8.
Yeah, chapter 8.
Right.
So this is, even though this is after Tabernacles, I'm wondering if this is them expressing that part of Tabernacles that says, all those Israelites born shall dwell in booths. If that means like separating from the rest of the nations, actually addressing your nation strictly. Right.
It's a sanctification. It's sanctifying. Say, look, we gotta come together. We gotta come to one, and we gotta deal with what we did. It's almost like when we send the women out the room and the men come together. Like, look here, we gotta get this together. We don't need this to affect everybody else. They're looking to us for leadership, and we can't. This is dirty laundry. We gotta get this together. And, when you're confessing the sins of your forefathers, you're letting Yahweh know that even though you might have been taught this, or even though you might have seen this in your household, you are verbally confirming that that's wrong. So now you're holding yourself accountable to not do those same things. And the fact that the children of Yasharal that were in the wilderness, that were under 20 years of age, they had to distance themselves from that old pagan worship that they were doing in Mizraim, or they were going to die off just like all the men that were 20 years and older did, except for those 2 that were able to enter into the land.
Verse 3, and they stood up in their place and read the book of the law of Yahweh their Elohim, 1/4 part of the day, and another 1/4 part they confessed and worshipped Yahweh their Elohim. Then stood up upon the stairs of the Levites Yeshua and Bani Kadmiel, Shebaniah, Buni, Sherebiah, Bani, and Shani, and cried with a loud voice unto Yahweh their Elohim. Then the Levites Yeshua and Kadmiel, Bani, Hashabinah, Sherebiah, Hodiah, Shabaniah, and Pethahiah said, Stand up and bless Yahweh your Elohim forever and ever. And blessed be your glorious name, which is exalted above all blessing and praise. You, even you are Yahweh alone. You have made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth, and all things that are therein, the seas and all that is therein, and you preserve them all. And the host of heaven worship you. You are Yahweh the Elohim, who did choose Abraham, and brought him forth out of Ur of the Chaldees, and gave him the name Abraham, and founded his heart faithful before you, and made a covenant with him to give the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Amorites, the Perizzites, and the Jebusites, and the Girgashites, to give it, I say, to his seed, and have performed your words, for you are righteous.
So Yahweh, you kept your covenant. Yahweh, you kept righteousness. We didn't. So we confirming that you are righteous. We are the ones that are wrong.
Verse 9. And did see the affliction of our fathers in Mizraim, Egypt, and heard their cry by the Red Sea, and showed signs and wonders upon Pharaoh, and on all his servants, and on all the people of the land, his land. For you knew that they dealt proudly against them. So did you get you a name as it is this day. And you did divide the sea before them, so that they went through the midst of the sea on the dry land, and their persecutors you threw into the deeps, as a stone into the mighty waters. Moreover, you led them in the day by a cloudy pillar, and in the night by a pillar of fire, to give them light in the way wherein they should go. You came down also upon Mount Sinai, and spoke with them from heaven, and gave them right judgments and true laws, good statutes and commandments, and made known unto them your holy Shabbat, and commanded them precepts, statutes, and laws by the hand of Moshe your servant, and gave them bread from heaven for their hunger, and brought forth water for them out of the rock for their thirst, and promised them that they should go in to possess the land which you had sworn to give them. But they and our fathers dealt proudly, and hardened their necks, and hearkened not to your commandments, and refused to obey, neither were mindful of your wonders that you did among them, but hardened their necks in their rebellion appointed a captain to return to their bondage. But you all were Eloah, ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and forsook them not.
All right, so we can stop right there. So we are confirming once again, look, you did what you were supposed to do, but we were stiff-necked. You led us, you forgave us, you showed us the right way, but we were stiff-necked. So we are acknowledging that. We're acknowledging the sin of our fathers, and we're acknowledging that this is the type of people we are. If we come from these people, then this is in us. So that's something that we have to pay attention to, that despite all the goodness that Yah has done for us, we still have a propensity to go back to doing the things that we're comfortable and used to doing. So we definitely have to keep that in mind. Let's go to Psalms, Tehillim chapter 69. So again, they are praying, fasting, and confessing what they have done wrong, and bringing it before the Father. So this was common knowledge and common understanding amongst the Brews, that when you are trying to get your prayer heard, because obviously this ain't the first time you prayed about something. If this got this bad, that means, you didn't just wake up one day and realize, oh my goodness, things are bad. Nah, you've been praying for a while. But whatever action you're doing that's causing this to continue hasn't been addressed, and whatever spirit that's sitting on you causing you to be afflicted is not going away. So you realize, okay, I really need to step this up. I got to go above and beyond. I got to show the Father that this ain't I promise you, if you get me out of this, I'll never do this again. And all. No, this is serious, because I did this thing because it was pleasurable to my flesh, one way or another, which caused me to do this wrong. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to displeasure my flesh, my soul, to show you that, listen, no, I don't have to be always being a slave to my flesh. I can make spiritual decisions to show you that, no, I'm serious about this.
Hallelujah. Psalms, Tehillim, chapter 69 and verse 1. Save me, O Elohim, for the waters are come into my soul. I sink in deep mire where there is no standing. I am come into deep waters where the floods overflow me. I am weary of my crying, my throat is dried, my eyes fail while I wait for my Elohim. They that hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of my head. They that would destroy me, being my enemies wrongfully, are mighty. Then I restored that which I took not away. O Elohim, you know my foolishness, and my sins are not hid from you. Let not them that wait on you, O my sovereign Yahweh of hosts, be ashamed for my sake. Let not those that seek you be confounded for my sake, O Elohim of Yasharal. Because for your sake I have borne reproach. Shame has covered my face. I am become a stranger unto my brethren and an alien unto my mother's children. For the zeal of your house has eaten me up, and the reproaches of them that reproached you are fallen upon me. When I wept and fasted my soul with fasting, that was to my reproach. I made sackcloth also my garment, and I became a proverb to them.
So he is chastening himself with fasting. Now they added that word chastening in there, but this is how he's dealing with his soul. He's fasting. This is what he's doing. And the difference is, rather than him sitting here talking about how righteous he is and all. Now, this current situation, he might be in righteousness. And that's why he's saying, I didn't do anything. But he's still acknowledging the fact that, look, my foolishness, I'm just a man. My sins are not hid from you. So I'm not sitting here trying to act like I'm just this innocent person that hasn't done anything wrong. Oh, why are these people doing this to me? No, he's acknowledging that, okay, my actions has also allowed some of this to happen, but I've repented from that. And right now I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And they're trying to kill me. So I'm putting this in your hands. And I can only take what I can take in my hands, which is to fast, to show you how serious I am. There's plenty of times we come before the Father and we apologize and we acknowledge and we confess and we say, I'm sorry. But what's the difference? There's a difference here. You are taking it a next step and you are showing, look, if this didn't show you how serious I am, this is all that I can do lawfully.
Psalms chapter 69, Tehillim chapter 69, verse 12. They that sit in the gate speak against me, and I was the song of the drunkards. But as for me, my prayer is unto you, O Yahweh. In an acceptable time, O Elohim, in the multitude of your mercy, hear me in the truth of your salvation.
In an acceptable time. Acceptable time is a time that Yahweh considers. But we figure, okay, I prayed to you. I didn't get what I want right away. All right, let me take things in my own hand, because I guess that's not his will. Nah. In an acceptable time, Yah may need you to sit in that affliction for a while so that you can understand what it is he's trying to get you to understand. Because the affliction is going to decide where you stand. Are you going to just operate by going to another? Yeah, we read Rashard Davis. We are reading out the King James Version. And then we also have the
RSB, Restored Study Bible.
Restored Study Bible, which is just the
Restoration
Study Bible, which is just another King James Version in which they changed it to the terms. But when we read out of the King James Version, basically, and we just use the Hebrew words instead of the pagan words. So, what was I saying? I got thrown off.
You were saying some righteous stuff.
An acceptable time. So, when things happen, Yah will allow us to stay into that affliction and hears us in an acceptable time. We may need to deal with the chastening so that we could understand. So it's just not another time of, I promise if you get me out this, I'm never going to do that again. Nah, sit in that for a little bit. And he's dedicated a whole day to that for you to sit in there and actually think about that. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Deliver me out of the mire and let me not sink.
Elder, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as a thought, I guess, like reference, we deal with Daniel, when he prayed, out his situation, he stood on what he prayed for and believed that he was going to receive it, So he just, held on for like 21 days, until he received an answer, but he didn't give up, So whatever situation that, he was going through and what we go through, we have to take a page out of his book, It's like the brother, prayed and believed that he was going to be heard from the Most High because he believed in the Most High. So, we, especially at this time, have to afflict ourselves on this holy day, so we can invoke Yahweh's ears, we really want this situation in our lives to change, so we want the best. So we stop making these mistakes that we make, putting our thoughts further from the Most High, He said if we draw near to Him, He will draw near to us. So He's giving us a way to, close the gap between our distances from the sins that we have created. So I just want to bring that point up, that if Daniel is showing us, he needed to fast, so pray to his Father, to call upon Him to get an answer, then we, in turn, are given this day to fast and pray to get an answer to the issues in our lives. And basically, we want to be close to the Father. We want these sins to be disannulled. We want our sins to be cleansed, and to learn how not to do that same sin again, because we do things in repetition. We wind up doing the same mistake upon to the same hole. So we have to learn, by this practice, and by Yahweh's mercy, not to fall into this hole again. And as you say, my brother, on that verse, in acceptable time, sometimes we have to sit in that situation because we might be harder than others in a certain situation, that we have to learn that Yahweh is trying to tell us. We need to recognize the things that we do. So when we call upon Him, inquire upon Him, and in acceptable time He releases from that problem, we should not to step into that hole again and make a mess of things once again. So I just want to bring that point up.
Right. And when you look at the whole situation of fasting, you are intentionally doing something that is not pleasurable to you. If sin was painful, every time we sinned, we were in a bunch of pain, we wouldn't do it. But because when we transgress the law when we're going to get some kind of pleasure out of it or to avoid some kind of pain. And that could be mentally, could be emotionally, or it could be physically. This is why we do those things. So it's a practice of saying, flesh, I'm in control of you. I'm going to purposely hurt myself, lawfully hurt myself, which is a way to afflict yourself without literally cutting yourself or causing your temple to be defiled, just to keep control of my flesh, because it was my flesh and the lust of the flesh is what's causing me to get into these problems. So it only makes sense to say I'm going to do something unpleasurable to me because it's my pleasure that got me into the problem that I'm in right now.
Verse 14. Deliver me out of the mire and let me not sink. Let me be delivered from them that hate me and out of the deep waters. Let not the water flood overflow me, neither let the deep swallow me up, and let not the pit shut her mouth upon me. Hear me, O Yahweh, for your loving kindness is good. Turn unto me according to the multitude of your tender mercies, and hide not your face from your servant, for I am in trouble. Hear me speedily. Draw near unto my soul and redeem it. Deliver me because of my enemies. You have known my reproach and my shame and my dishonor. My adversaries are all before you. Reproach has broken my heart, and I am full of heaviness. And I looked for some to take pity, but there was none, and for comforters, but I found none. They gave me also gall for my meat, and in my thirst They gave me vinegar to drink.
So you're seeing a lot of symbolism and prophecy of the Mashiach. He's literally speaking about a lot that the Mashiach had to deal with, minus the, my transgression, this, that, and the other. He keeps talking about this metaphor of drowning, of being in the water, which is very symbolic of an immersion. And then now he's going into he's speaking the future, the same thing that the Mashiach had to went through. He's talking symbolically, but he's literally prophesying what Hamashiach is going to go through. Go ahead.
Verse 22, let their table become a snare before them, and that which should have been for their welfare, let it become a trap.
Because they are focused on the lust of the flesh. So this same table that's supposed to be food for them, this is going to be where they're going to start transgressing, eating all kind of things. That's going to be a snare unto them. And I remember the elder had brought up a point about that. What was that word for table again?
7979, H7979.
I think it's shulchan, which is a table, by implication, a meal or a table. So not only just the table, but also the meal that they take on the table as well. Elder, did you have a point about that? I remember you had brought something up in the past.
So you try to get think about that. The Spirit was moving it, and sometimes we just say things out of our heart that we've read and we've studied, and the Spirit speaks it. And sometimes we don't remember it unless you write it down and do an active study, because He's giving us, bread that sometimes we don't follow up on. So I have to do a little bit more study on that, my brother.
Okay, no problem.
I got one question.
Go ahead.
About table metaphorically, because I'm thinking, it takes time to, set the table and prepare everything. So it's like, is it speaking of like these people's plans and I guess kind of their aspirations in a sense? Like, this
Could
is
be.
what we're planning to do.
What they're planning, the preparation, let it be a snare.
Right.
Their preparation that they're trying to do to feed their family or make money or something of that nature, could let that be a snare to them. The same thing that they're trying to prepare to set, let that be a snare to them instead of the blessing that is supposed to be unto them. So that's a good way of looking at it, definitely.
Verse 23. Let their eyes be darkened that they see not, and make their loins continually to shake. Pour out your indignation upon them, and let your wrathful anger take hold of them. Let their habitation be desolate, and let none dwell in their tents. For they persecute him whom you have smitten, and they talk to the grief of those whom you have wounded.
So you look at that and you say, oh, well, why is he imprecating on these people? Well, if Yahweh doesn't chasten these people for the things they're doing, they're going to continue doing it to their own death. So he's asking nothing but righteous judgment for these people.
Verse 27. Add iniquity unto their iniquity, and let them not come into your righteousness. Let them be blotted out of the book of the living, and not be written with the righteous. But I am poor and sorrowful. Let your salvation, O Elohim, set me up on high. I will praise the name of Elohim with a song, and will magnify them with thanksgiving. This also shall please Yahweh better than an ox or bullock that has horns and hoofs.
I will praise the name of Yahweh with a song, and will magnify him with thanksgiving. This is what's going to please Yahweh, better than you killing this ox or this bullock. Go ahead.
The humble shall see this and be glad, and your heart shall live that seek Elohim. For Yahweh hears the poor and despises not his prisoners. Let the heaven and the earth praise him, the seas and everything that moves therein. For Elohim will save Zion, and will build cities of Yehuda, that they may dwell there and have it in possession. The seed also of his servants shall inherit it, and they that love his name shall dwell therein.
They that love his character, that love the character of the Most High. When you love something about somebody, you want to emulate that. I love the way you shoot that ball and do this. I love the way you rap. You're going to emulate it because you love it. It's obviously something that you hold dearly to you. But we show with our actions that we love the way of the wicked. Let's go to Daniel chapter 9, which is that chapter right before what the elder was talking about. If you want to see that reference that the elder made about how he prayed, that was Daniel chapter 10. which the angel told him, fear not, Daniel, I heard you from the first day you set to afflict yourself. Matter of fact, when we over there, we can read that real quick, just that part. Because Yah said, I heard you from the first day you set to afflict yourself. Is it, Daniel chapter 10. We're going to read this real quick, and we're going to start this at verse 10. And it said, and behold, a hand touched me, which set me upon my knees and upon the palms of my hands. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto you, and stand upright. For unto you now am I sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you did set your heart to understand and to chasten yourself before your Elohim, your words were heard, and I am come for your words. So he heard. But verse 13, but the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. Now I am come to make you understand what shall befall your people in the latter days, for yet your vision is for many days. So he's telling them, look, I heard you, but again, in an acceptable time. And you have angels fighting with other angels. So the Most High might hear your prayer, and he might be willing to deal with you. But at the end of the day, there's other things going on. There's other spiritual things going on that's beyond our understanding. But what we do know is that all things work for the glory of the Most High. So now we're going to go back. Daniel chapter 9, and let's start this at verse 1.
In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, whereof the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah. Isn't Ahasuerus the name of the dude that was in
Yep.
Esther as well?
Mm-hmm. Same as this is the Persians.
Whereof the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem.
So that's supposed to be Xerxes. Go ahead.
And I set my...
Go ahead, bro.
Sorry to interrupt. What the books he means? Does he mean the books of like possibly Jubilees and Enoch and stuff?
I'm thinking he's saying by where the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah the prophet. So Jeremiah prophesied that we were going to be in Babylon 70 years. When we went there the first time, it was 7 years. And then he said the next time it's 70 years. So I don't know if he's talking about those books, but that's a good question. What was the actual word for books? Let's see what that. What was the number?
H5612. Sefer.
So it's by the writings. So he's saying by the documents. So again, there's certain documents that he's going by, which I'm assuming he's mentioning Jeremiah. So this would have been Jeremiah writing his prophecies. Or possibly we know there's other stuff out there that we don't know. So he could be talking about the Sefer writings, could be talking about Jubilees, or because we read it, most of it, but we don't know it like the way we know Torah. So it might be in those Sefer writings for all we know, or Enoch or anything. Good question.
Verse 3. And I set my face unto Yahweh Elohim to seek by prayer and supplications with fasting and sackcloth and ashes.
So, and I set my face unto Adonai Elohim to seek by prayer and supplications with fasting and sackcloth and ashes. So you seen, this is how the righteous brothers operate and how a righteous nation operates when they're trying to supplicate unto Yah and ask for something they don't deserve. We deserve exactly righteous judgment, but we asking the Most High for mercy. So if we want mercy, we ask him all the time. And if it's not working, then we got to step it up. We got to do something more. So show him that we serious. Now, we're not just trying to remove something because it's making us uncomfortable. Now, we want to remove it because we want to walk in righteousness. We want to do the right things. We don't just want to be relieved of the chastening. We want to be relieved of the spirit that's causing us to do all these things. And remember that. We're going to circle back to that. The spirit that's causing us to do these things. How to get that out.
Verse 4, and I prayed unto Yahweh my Elohim and made my confession and said, O Yahweh, the great and dreadful all, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him and to them that keep his commandments. We have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled, even by departing from your precepts and from your judgments.
Notice he's praying not just for himself, he's praying for his people. We have done this. If one of us done this, then we have done it because we are a nation. This is what we have to understand. So in your atonement that you're bringing before the Father, don't forget your nation. Don't forget your forefathers. Don't forget your people. Definitely don't forget the people that you're covering, if you're a covering. Go ahead.
Verse 5, we have sinned, we have committed iniquity, and have done wickedly, and have rebelled, even by departing from your precepts and from your judgments. Neither have we hearkened unto your servants the prophets, which spoke in your name to our kings, our princes, and our fathers, and to all the people of the land. O Yahweh, righteousness belongs unto you, but unto us confusion of faces as at this day, to the men of Yehuda and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Yasharal that are near and that are far off, through all the countries where you have driven them, because of their trespass, that they have trespassed against you.
So you wonder why we sent into slavery, why we went through what we went through? It tells you right there in the book. Because this is what he did to them before. This is what he did to them again. And this is what he's doing to us now. This is why we are out of our house. What do your parents do? What do your parents do when you're being rebellious and you don't want to listen? You don't want to follow instruction. You keep begging, I'm sorry, but then you turn around and you do the same thing. Eventually your parents going to do what?
Kick you out.
They going to kick you out. Get out. You think you grown? You don't need this covering? You think you can do whatever you want to do and that's going to be better for you in your life? Get out. So this is no different. This is no different.
Verse 8. O my sovereign, to us belongs confusion of face, to our kings, to our princes, and to our fathers, because we have sinned against you.
We taking responsibility because we have sinned against you. Not, well, because white man is wicked. Because we are so righteous and white man tricked us. Nah, because we are sinful is why what we are going through. Go ahead.
To Yahweh our Elohim belong mercy and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. Neither have we obeyed the voice of Yahweh our Elohim to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servants the prophets. Yea, all Yasharal have transgressed your law, even by departing, that they might not obey your voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath is written in the law of Moshe, the servant of Elohim, because we have sinned against him.
They won't read that. They won't read that in normal churches, in the regular churchos. They won't read that. Because at the end of the day, this is giving you a remedy. And if you have a remedy, the people don't want to do this remedy. They want to continue on what they continue, but relieve me of the chastening. So it's much easier and more profitable to tell you, well, just give me some money. You'll feel better about yourself and your problems will go away. But guess what? The problems don't go away. So you tell them, no, you just need to have faith. You just need to wait. But they're not really doing the actions to make the problems go away. So they do a disservice by not telling you why these things are happening. Go ahead.
And he has confirmed his words which he spoke against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven has not been done as has been done upon Jerusalem. As it is written in the law of Moshe, all this evil has come upon us. Yet made we not our prayer before Yahweh our Elohim, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand your truth.
So that is the prayer that you're supposed to pray. Turn from iniquity. Help me turn from my lawlessness and help me understand your truth. Remember that in your prayers. Not just forgive me for what I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Who else sought repentance with tears? But it was too late. Who else? Anybody? Remind you anybody? Mm-hmm. Several people.
Ahab. It was Ahab.
Who?
I think it might have been Ahab, right?
Ahab might have. That wasn't one that came to my mind, but that could be correct. I'm sorry, I have to fact check that. But Esau, Esau wept bitterly. Oh, bless me too. He sought it with repentance after he despised his inheritance. Who's another person that sought it with tears, but it was too late?
I think Saul.
Saul?
David's oppressor.
Oh, King Saul? Mm-hmm. King Saul sought it with tears. It was too late. And also, your boy, Yehudis. No, what they got to do with us? That's blood money. We don't want that. Yehudis Iscariot sought it with tears. But did they say, remove this iniquity from me? I've done wrong. Help me with this. Nah, just don't punish me. Let me get what I want. That's what we ask for. So we need to ask for the removing of this iniquity from us so that we don't have to come every year asking the same prayer. Oh, please forgive me for my bad temper. Oh, please forgive me for lying. Oh, please forgive me for being a harlot. Nah. Every year you should be digging deep. It should get to the point, please forgive me for knowing to do good and I didn't. For missing the mark, for not being perfect. For going 1 mile when the guy asked me to go 2 miles. When I should have went 4 miles. How are we going to get to that where we can actually be a covering for somebody when we still stuck in the consequences of our own things? A lot of times it's ignorance. Right now, a lot of it is just pure ignorance. We just don't know any better. We don't even have a true vision of ourselves. But after a while, you should be able to see a little bit better. And then once you see, you can do something about it. And if you can't see, because I remember years coming before the Father, just crying and pouring it out because I couldn't see. I'm like, what? Why is this happening? What am I doing? I'm keeping your commandments. I'm beating everybody over the head with this book. What am I doing wrong? Oh, yeah. You beaten. You smoked the rock. You didn't talk to the rock. Oh. Go ahead, brother. Elder, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say this. What you were just saying just now from what how we were supposed to pray back in Torah, Yeshua just reminded all the brothers and sisters when he gave them, in Matthew chapter 6, dealing with the prayers, he told them how to pray to the Father. You know what I mean? He talked about, he said it shortly, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and then he tried to explain it when he prayed, if we, forgive men their trespasses, the Heavenly Father will also forgive you. So he's saying, remember what your forefathers did and ask forgiveness of the sins that they have committed, and then ask for your forgiveness of the sins you've committed, and then in this teaching, in this practice, we're going to also have to forgive men of their sins. And if we do, maybe we can lessen the sins that we create because we are too long to forgive or we don't forgive, and add to our problems, and then we wind up doing the same things that our forefathers did, and their mistakes. So one thing leads to another thing, so it's just, Yeshua tries to remind us on what we should do. And if we go back to the Torah, it just gets further. The schoolmaster teaches you in depth a little bit more of why he told us to pray this way, because of the trouble we was in, because of our unbelief and disobedience.
Right. Khan.
Daniel chapter 9 and verse 12. And he has confirmed his words, which he spoke against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven.
14.
Oh, verse 14. Therefore has Yahweh watched upon the evil and brought it upon us. For Yahweh our Elohim is righteous in all his works which he does, for we obeyed not his voice. And now, O Yahweh, our Elohim, that has brought your people forth out of the land of Mitzrayim with a mighty hand, and have gotten you renowned as it is, as at this day, we have sinned, we have done wickedly. O Yahweh, according to all your righteousness, I beseech you, let your anger and your fury be turned away from your city, Jerusalem, your holy mountain, because for our sins and for the iniquities of our fathers, Jerusalem and your people are become a reproach to all that are about us.
And it's the same thing. We are reproach to everything that's about us. Everywhere we go, the property value go down. Everywhere we go, the crime rate go up. Yeah, part of it is the system, but why is this everywhere we go? It's the same situation. And it's not just here in America. All these other countries, you see it. And it's either by us, crime that we're doing because we're not keeping the commandments, or stuff happening to us because we're not keeping the commandments. Go ahead.
Verse 17, now therefore, O our Elohim, hear the prayer of your servant and his supplications, and cause your face to shine upon your sanctuary that is desolate for Yahweh's sake. O my Elohim, incline your ear and hear. Open your eyes and behold our desolations and the city which is called by your name. For we do not present our supplications before you for our righteousness, but for your great mercies.
Remember that too when you pray. Don't be sitting here talking about, I fast, I give tithes, I've done all this, I've done all. You think Yahweh don't know the good things you did? He know the good things you did because that was him and you doing that. Anything good is coming through this word. It ain't got nothing to do with you. Ain't nothing good about you. Even Yahshua said that himself, and he was a perfect vessel. But remember, when you are praying and you're going before the Father, it's for his name's sake. You are named after him. This is you. This is your legacy, Yah. This is your people, your ambassador. Don't do it for me. I ain't worth nothing. But do it for your name. Empower me so that your glory can reside with our nation and our people. This is what the whole nation is supposed to be praying for. The only difference is we reconciling, we going down the laundry list of all the things we did and all the things our forefathers did.
Verse 19, O Yahweh, hear, O Yahweh, forgive, O Yahweh, hearken and do, defer not, for your own sake, O my Elohim, for your city and your people that are called by your name.
All right, let's stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Matthew chapter 17. Matthew chapter 17. So I remember I mentioned earlier to remember that look, we are praying to have this iniquity moved from us. We're praying to have that spirit removed from us that is influencing us to do these things. Because the flesh is designed to do certain things, but it don't just automatically, you just want to do some kind of wickedness. You got to be kind of led to that. Enticed by the lust of the flesh. So we're asking, remove that enticer. Remove that spirit that's trying to get us to that. That way I got to just deal. I want to be holy, so that's what I'm going to be. Ain't nothing finna lead me or push me in the other direction. And that's what the sabbatical kingdom is about. Well, you actually call it sabbatical kingdom because it's a Sabbath. You actually get rest. You get peace. You get sleep for once. You can actually rest because you don't have that evil spirit always trying to chase you and push you in the wrong direction and have you always crying and going back to the Father, I'm sorry I did this. That's out the way. So all you got to do is worry about your own actions and your own thoughts. And if you have a mind to walk in righteousness, that's what you're going to do. Ain't nobody going to trick you. Ain't nobody going to entice you. Ain't nobody going to do anything. You can just continue walking the way you want to walk without being pushed in the wrong direction. Matthew chapter 17, we're going to read verses 14 through 21.
And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man kneeling down to him and saying, Master, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed, for oft times he falls into the fire and oft into the water.
All right, so I want to address that word, lunatic. All right, so the lunatic comes from those people that were, worshiping the moon. And it also comes from people that will go crazy because of the moon, that full moon, the werewolf, all that kind of craziness. And Luna is literally a pagan god's name. So when you're following a lunar calendar, you're following a calendar that's named after a pagan god. When you are following a solar calendar, you're following a pagan god a calendar that's named after a pagan god. So what you saw a lot in here is you saw our people had an issue with worshiping the host of heaven instead of allowing the servant to do his job. The moon, the stars, all that are servants of the Most High. They're there for our purpose, for signs and for seasons. So when you look, you see all across Facebook, everybody getting all these different Day of Atonement. Day of Atonement was yesterday, the day before, the Day of Atonement tomorrow. It's all over the place because people using different calendars. And one of the major offenses is following the calendar according to the moon. In every other language, there's a separate word for moon and month. English is the only language I know that moon and month is the same derivative. In Hebrew, you have Yeriach for moon, and you have Hodesh for month. In Greek, you have Selene for moon, and you have a different word for month. So there's no confusion in all the ancient languages, but now you get here, there's a confusion. And you can read countless times in here where they were making cakes, round cakes to the moon. This is a worship practice. It's called a lunar calendar for a reason. So you have all these dates because you have one person that say the new moon starts when it's a dark moon, which is correct. Then you have another person that says the new moon starts when you have the sliver, which is also correct. Because on the day of the new moon, you're going to have a dark moon when the day starts at night. And in the daytime, you're going to see the little sliver of light that you see when you see the moon in the daytime. So you got two people arguing over when a new moon starts, when it doesn't even start the month. What I was explaining to my Shah earlier is the moon is like the 12 on the clock. When you look at a 12, the 12 on the clock don't tell you what hour you're in. It just tells you it's a reset. The little hand tells you what hour you're in. And you have to look at the little hand to tell you what hour you're in. Now, when you get to 12, that lets you know this is the beginning of something. So at the beginning of every season, you're going to have the same lunar phase. The same lunar phase. So if your Rosh Hashanah had a dark moon, the beginning of your summer is going to have a dark moon. The beginning of your fall is going to have a dark moon. And then back into the beginning of spring, it's going to reset. It's going to change. So it would be just like if you had a clock, the moon would be like a clock. Like if you had a clock and every year you're rotating the clock slightly, but it's rotating exact. So the 12 is still the 12. The 12 is just facing like this. So now you're in this moon phase for that year. And it goes till you have 7 different, well, not 7 different, but it repeats the phase twice in a 7-year cycle because the Hebrew calendar was a 7-year cycle. So the moon phase that starts your season is supposed to tell us what year we're in a 7-year cycle. So you know when you have the 7th year where you're supposed to do a Sabbath of the land, when you're supposed to have a Jubilee, all that. The problem is we don't have the documents to tell us what year we're in or how to know the lunar phase is going to tell us what year. I have a strong suspicion that the Vatican got that. I don't know. I don't have any proof. And if anybody knows how to calculate that to show us what year we're in the 7-year cycle, by all means, please share this with us because we don't know. I got my speculations. But we can't teach it and we can't go by it because we don't have any proof. So all you're seeing is that moon phase, the same beginning of every season, and then every year is just moving, year 4, moving until you get to year 7. So that's why you have all this confusion. Now you ask, how do we know that you cannot use the moon to calculate your year? Simple. Anybody who's using the moon to calculate their month, you can calculate the year, but to calculate each month with the moon. It's simple. You ask them, how many days do you have in your calendar year? If you're using the moon by itself, you're going to get when 12 moons, if moon is month equals month, then you have 12 moons, you're going to get exactly 354 days. If your year is 354 days, then you ain't hit all your seasons. You ain't complete your season. We know the year ain't 354 days. Science will tell you that. And if you go and add just for the heck of it, throw another moon in there just for good measure. Now you got 380 something days, 383 and a half or 384. Now your year is way too long. So you're either starting your year here early, which is wrong. You're starting in the wintertime, or you're starting it way into the spring. But meanwhile, time is still moving. Time is still going. So you're just getting further and further behind. So this is why you have all the confusion with the calendars. You want to put our calendar to the test. We use the Enoch calendar that was found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this is ancient. This is an ancient calendar. This is before Greece and all this stuff was going on. We use that calendar. Our calendar matches perfect with the Qumran calendar. It also matches, when you use that calendar, it matches what Yahshua was keeping. Because his resurrection timeline show you that he was keeping the holy days different than the Yehudim were keeping it according to the Sanhedrin. So it matches that. And our calendar matches Enoch and Jubilees, which all confirm that the sun is the timekeeper. So we have several witnesses to show why we do what we do. We're not following what everybody else is doing. Because remember, wide is the path to destruction and many go thereat. But narrow leads unto salvation. So study that. If you don't fully understand what you're doing, study that. Ask us. We got videos. We got stuff. We put our stuff out there. Ain't nobody putting that new moon stuff out there. They just going by it. Ain't nobody teaching that. They just go by that. Go ahead, brother.
Matthew, chapter 17 and verse 16. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not cure him.
Go ahead. You can go to. You can start at verse.
15
You're at 15. You're at 16.
Yeah. In verse 17. Then Yahshua answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him here to me. And Yahshua rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour.
All right. So why would he call them faithless and perverse? Anybody?
O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you?
What were they asking him? What was the problem?
One guy's son is just sick.
And they praying, they doing it, and they can't get it. It won't work. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they go to Yahshua. Yo, can you help us? What's like we can't cure him. Mm-hmm. So why would that response? Just think about it. Why would that response indicate that you're faithless or perverse?
That could be one of the reasons for the curse upon his son.
Go ahead, Elder. You had something?
You know, sometimes you have to think about the teachers that she was taught. It might be dealing with, how you said, if you had faith as a mustard seed, you can tell the mountain to move yourself, move yourself someplace else. I also believe was, you know, if you had faith, you could get this thing out. But
Bingo.
This one is dealing with, and he told them with fasting and prayers. Believing fasting and prayers and go to the Father, invoking the power for the Father to remove this, how you say, spiritual problem out of this man who has manifested himself as a medical problem and damaging him physically and mentally, you know, and also injuring his parents because their parents is under oppression because they have to consistently take care of this son of theirs who's probably not just a boy, he's probably might be a man, you know, dealing with this problem. So he's not free. His spirit, his mind is in prison because of the enemy. So if the disciples are not able to rebuke it out verbally by the Spirit, then you have to use fasting and prayers. Because if your faith was as strong as the Messiah's, then you just talk to it or just give it a command and it will leave.
Right.
It cannot fight you. It has to leave.
Exactly. He says it countless when he does miracles. Your faith has made you whole. They didn't believe. So they said, oh, they tried to pray it a couple times. It didn't leave. They're like, all right, let's go to Yahshua. Get this out. Like Yahshua going to be here forever. Nah. Your faithlessness. You gave up. Didn't we just read in an acceptable time? You should have known. Look, I believe in the power that if you believe in the Most High and I believe in the Most High, this thing gonna leave. Let's keep working. Let's keep doing. But they just said, nah, we didn't get what we wanted when we wanted because we want everybody to see how powerful we are. So let's go. And this perverse generation, obviously there was something that the man was doing or things that the disciples are doing, or maybe the reason they're doing it that may be perverse in the eyes of the Mashiach. Because again, the Mashiach can see what's in the heart of man. We can't. We can barely understand our own heart. But the faith part of it, they had to leave. They had to go. They just gave up. Go ahead.
Verse 18, and Yeshua rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour.
From that very hour. They still had to wait a little bit. It wasn't like it just, in that very second, that very moment, it came. No, the very hour. That means it's time for you to doubt that it's going to work. Oh, you see? He couldn't do it either. You see? That's why I don't believe in this Israelite stuff. Go ahead.
Then came the disciples to Yeshua apart and said, why could not we cast him out? And Yeshua said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit this kind goes not out but by prayer and fasting.
All right, so there's certain spirits that can only come out by prayer and fasting. If it wasn't for Yah forcing us to do this once a year, certain spirits will never leave us. But if you're not fasting and you're not praying, you're just taking a day off, I don't know if that spirit gonna leave you. I don't know if you're gonna get forgiveness. How many different examples do you need of prayer and fasting to say, okay, I need to afflict myself to take that extra layer, to remove that extra spirit that I have trouble with, the same one that keep causing a plague in my life? This boy here, the child here, or man, or whatever this was, he was an epileptic. So when the sun come out, or when the light hits his eyes, or when the moon is bright, or whatever, he just something caused him to pass out, to go into some problems. So the disciples are supposed to believe, look, I know what we can do because we've done miracles. So, we need to believe that this can happen, and we got the Mashiach. We good. Let's do it. So that we can show them the example of faith. Let's move on. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 25. Wayakra chapter 25. So we got some other things going on atonement. Something very big happens on atonement. Leviticus, Wayakra, chapter 25. Let's start this at verse 1. So this goes back what we're talking about, understanding what year we're in.
And he always spoke unto Moshe in Mount Sinai, saying, speak unto the children of Yasharal, and say unto them, when you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Shabbat unto Yahweh. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Shabbat of rest unto the land, a Shabbat for Yahweh. You shall neither sow your field nor prune your vineyard.
So you have to have an actual rest for the land, so the land can reproduce and replenish its minerals in the ground, so the land could be blessed. But modern farms don't do that. They farm all day long. I don't know any farmers that do that, that leave a whole year where they farm just there. They living on that. Go ahead. This is the reason why I suspect they have possibly removed everything in this book that will show us what year we're in. Because then we could go to Jewish people and say, Jewish people that finance this slave trade, when you gonna send us back home? Because the 50th year has come how many times? Several times. The 50th year has come because we've been in this land hundreds of years. Go ahead.
Verse 11. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. You shall not sow neither reap that which grows of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of your vine undressed. For it is the Jubilee, it shall be holy unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this Jubilee you shall return every man unto his possession. And if you sell aught unto your neighbor, or buy aught of your neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. According to the number of years after the Jubilee you shall buy of your neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruits he shall sell unto you. According to the multitude of years you shall increase the price thereof, and according to the fewness of years you shall diminish the price of it. For according to the number of years of the fruits does he sell unto you.
So that means if you are going to, and that's where depreciation came in. That's where all that came. If you are going to sell something to somebody that has to go back to them after a certain period of time, you can't sell it to him full price. He only going to get 1 year before the Jubilee. That's wickedness. You're oppressing somebody because he really needs to get that so he can farm that land or do whatever so he can make some money. But he got to go back to him. Nah, don't oppress your people. Go ahead.
Verse 17. You shall not therefore oppress one another, but shall fear your Elohim, for I am Yahweh your Elohim.
You shall not oppress one another. Keep that in mind. Go ahead.
Wherefore you shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and you shall dwell in the land in safety, and the land shall yield her fruit, and you shall eat your fill and dwell therein in safety. And if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather in our increase.
Faith.
Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for you 3 years.
But see, that's not how we are taught in America. We taught in America we gotta physically do everything ourselves. If we don't do everything ourselves, we not gonna eat. That supersedes Yahweh's laws. We gotta work 7 days a week to eat. How am I gonna make enough money to pay my rent? Nah. Where is your faith? Go ahead.
Verse 22.
Mm-hmm.
And you shall sow the 8th year and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits come in, you shall eat of the old store. The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, and you are strangers and sojourners with me.
That's clue number 7,080. That the people in the land ain't our people. They don't look like us. They don't resemble the people in this book. And they don't follow the laws of this book. The land shall not be sold forever. And you see how wicked it was when you had Yehu and Ahab or whatever that was fighting over that land and wanted to take that land from their brother. And Jezebel came in there and said, oh, we'll get the land, set him up, and we'll take it. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And in all the land of your possession you shall grant a redemption for the land. If your brother be waxen poor, and has sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold.
Judah supposed to be where Judah at. Levi supposed to be in the suburbs and all the different tribes. Ephraim supposed to be where Ephraim is at. It ain't supposed to be like how they do here, which is wickedness. You over here, you in DeKalb County, you in Fulton County. Then you travel past Gwinnett, then all of a sudden you in North Fulton County. What kind of foolishness is that? How's that Fulton? How do I pass all these counties and all of a sudden it's Fulton? That's people trying to take advantage. Trying to say, oh, we like this property over here. So a lot of us live over here. So we're going to go ahead and put this as part of us so that we have more voting power in a more powerful city. It's wickedness. Go ahead. They call that gerrymandering.
Is verse 28?
26.
26. And if the man have none to redeem it, and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of the sale thereof, and restore the overplus unto the man to whom he sold it, that he may return unto his possession. But if he be not able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that has bought it until the year of Jubilee, and in the year of Jubilee it shall go out, and he shall return unto his possession.
Hold on a second. Tafar, can you go check on Yazzie, please?
Verse 29. And if a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold. Within a full year may he redeem it. And if it be not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it throughout his generations. It shall not go out in the Jubilee. But the houses of the villages, which have no wall round about them, shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall go out in the Jubilee. Notwithstanding, the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession may the Levites redeem at any time. And if a man purchase of the Levites, then the house that was sold and the city of his possession shall go out in the year of Jubilee. For the houses of the cities of the Levites are their possession among the children of Yasharal. But the field of the suburbs of their cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. And if your brother be waxing poor and falls in decay with you, then you shall relieve him, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. Take no usury of him or increase, but fear your Elohim, that your brother may live with you. You shall not give him your money upon usury, nor lend him your victuals for increase. I am Yahweh your Elohim, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, to give you the land of Canaan, and to be your Elohim.
All right, we can stop there. So let's move on. Let's go to Yeshayah chapter 58, Isaiah chapter 58. So you read more about what happens on the Jubilee. It's also, you know, if anybody's a bondman for you, whatever, you got to let him go. You got to send him back. You know, so when you had that scenario, you had people that were poor and they worked for somebody and they sold their, you know, people would sell their daughters to be bond women because they couldn't afford to pay debts. They sell their sons to work in the fields, and they would do all of that. They would sell that. And when they would sell that, at the end of the Jubilee year, they would have to be released. And when they were released, they were still poor. So people took advantage of that, knowing that you release a poor person, say, oh, you ain't got to be my servant no more. But you didn't empower him in no way. You didn't teach him how to fish. You didn't do anything. You just let him go. What are you going to do? He can go right back to you and be a bondman again because he doesn't have a chance. He doesn't have a way to be free. And they were like, well, we kept the law. We let him go. It was his own free will to come back. Nah, you see your brother on poor, loan him some money. But you know they was loaning them money and charging increase and doing all kind of wickedness. And then when they couldn't pay back, doing the same thing the IMF does with the central banks, giving these countries these loans, you know they can't pay back. They can't pay back the interest. And now I own you. This is the same thing that happened in Egypt. That's how the Pharaoh got power. When the drought came and the dirt was in the earth, everybody was poor. They had to go to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was giving it out, selling it. And when they couldn't sell no more stuff, then they had to start selling themselves into bondage. And that's how he was controlled over all of Egypt, because everybody was in bondage or they couldn't eat. That's wickedness. Go ahead.
Yeshayah, Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up your voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways as a nation that did righteousness, and forsook not the ordinance of their Elohim. They ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching to Elohim. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and you see not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and you take no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast you find pleasure, and exact all your labors.
So you're supposed to be fasting and praying and focusing on and afflicting yourself, but instead you do pleasurable things and do all your labors so you don't lose no money. It's supposed to be a Sabbathon. You're supposed to take the day off. Instead, you going around cleaning up the house and using it like a sick day. Go ahead.
Verse 4, behold, you fast for strife and debate and to smite with the fist of wickedness. You shall not fast as you do this day to make your voice to be heard on high. Is it such a fast that I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast and an acceptable day to Yahweh?
So you go through the pomp and circumstance. Oh, we sorry, and you're walking around with your face all disfigured. Oh, we so hungry, we fasting. Not dealing with any of the wickedness that you did. Not considering our ways and our actions and how we're going to move forward. We're not considering it. We're doing it all for pomp and circumstance because this is tradition. This is what we do. We fast on this day. Or I'm sad, so I want everybody to know this. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Is not this the fast that I have chosen to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke?
So that is the fast, and that is the time in which you have atonement, where you're supposed to release these people. This is what it was for, to loosen the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, let the people go. Go ahead.
Is it not to deal your bread to the hungry, and that you bring the poor that are cast out to your house? When you see the naked, that you cover him, and that you hide not yourself from your own flesh?
So a lot of people took that, verse 7, and they thought that meant on Day of Atonement, you're supposed to feed poor people. No, that's not what that means. That's not a commandment. It says anybody who doesn't afflict their soul. If he's already afflicted and he's poor and you give him food, he ain't afflicting his soul. And furthermore, Yahshua said point blank, the poor are always going to be with you. So the day after atonement, the poor people going to be there too. They still going to be hungry on the day after atonement. You can feed them then. But see, if you use the excuse, I'm going to feed poor people on the Day of Atonement, then, okay, now you can eat. Because you're feeding people, you're buying food, ain't nobody going to know the difference. So some people out of a pure heart believe that that's what they're supposed to do. If it's out of a pure heart, okay. But we're going to get into the understanding of this. Is it not to deal your bread to the hungry, that you bring the poor that are cast out of your house? Were you doing that before? Or were you abusing the poor? Okay, the fast is not only to say, forgive me, but it's also to repent. When you see the poor person, feed them. Not on the Day of Atonement, but on a regular day, you feed the person. Don't do the same wickedness you did before that you had to bring before the Father and reconcile. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Then shall your light break forth as the morning, and your health shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of Yahweh shall be your reward. Then shall you call, and Yahweh shall answer. You shall cry, and he shall say, here I am. If you take away from the midst of you the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity.
So again, we tie that back with what people were doing. And we're gonna read this actually in Jeremiah next. People were, okay, the law said we gotta release these people, so we released them. We released them. Now these people are hungry and poor. Now I ain't got nothing to do with me. If you want to eat, every man you gotta work to eat. Then now you're putting them right back in oppression. That's not what he wanted. He said you should have been feeding these poor people. You didn't have to force this person to sign his way of life away for 7 years just so you can give some food. Why not feed the poor? Go ahead.
Verse 10. And if you draw out your soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall your light rise in obscurity, and your darkness be as the noonday. And Yahweh shall guide you continually and satisfy your soul in drought and make fat your bones. And you shall be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters fail not.
So he's letting you know, okay, don't worry about giving away your increase. Feed the poor, and your barnyards are going to bust through. Your wine presses are going to bust through. Everything's going to be good with you. You don't need to be so tight with your money, scared to pay people stuff or give people stuff because you feel like your stuff's going to go away. He's telling you, no, have faith. Give this stuff to the poor people. Give it to them. And when you do that, I'm the one that adds increase. I can decide whether your clusters are the size of a man's head or the size of a walnut. I decide that. Yah gives the increase. So trust him, put your faith in him, and not put your faith in yourself saying, I'm going to hoard all this stuff and I'm going to oppress these poor people so I make sure that I got big amounts of store. Go ahead.
Verse
12.
And they that shall be of you shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If you turn away your foot from the Shabbat, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Shabbat a delight, the holy of Yahweh honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words.
So this is how we are to deal with the Sabbath. This is Yah's day. When he's talking about doing your own pleasure, when you're doing things that could make you unclean, for one, and doing things that you normally do on that day for pleasure's sake. The Sabbath is sanctified. It's supposed to be about Yahweh. Don't mean you got to punish yourself and make yourself be in pain. But sanctify the day. Don't go out there and go play basketball on the Sabbath day. Let that chill. It may be a lot of fun, but let it chill. Rest. Focus on what you allow your body to get rest and renew. Go ahead.
Then shall you delight yourself in Yahweh, and I will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it.
All right, now let's go to Jeremiah chapter 34, and then we have one more for the conclusion. Jeremiah chapter 34. So Jeremiah is going to address this wickedness of our people trying to play slick.
Jeremiah chapter 34 and verse 1. The word which came unto Jeremiah from Yahweh, when Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and all his army, and all the kingdoms of the earth of his dominion, and all the people fought against Jerusalem, and against all the cities thereof, saying, Thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of Yasharal, go and speak to Zedekiah, king of Yehuda, and tell him, Thus says Yahweh, Behold, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. And you shall not escape out of his hand, but shall surely be taken and delivered into his hand, and your eyes shall behold the eyes of the king of Babylon, and he shall speak with you mouth to mouth, and you shall go to Babylon. Yet hear the word of Yahweh, O Zedekiah, king of Yehuda. Thus says Yahweh of you, you shall not die by the sword, but you shall die in peace. And with the burnings of your fathers, the former kings which were before you, so shall they burn odors for you. And they will lament you, saying, Ah, master, for I have pronounced the word of Yahweh. The word, says Yahweh. Then Jeremiah the prophet spoke all these words unto Zedekiah, the king of Yehuda, in Jerusalem. And when the king of Babylon's army fought against Jerusalem, and against all the cities of Yehuda that were left, against Lachish, and against Azekah, for these defense cities remained of the cities of Yehuda. This is the word that came unto Jeremiah from Yahweh after that the king Zedekiah had made a covenant with all the people which were at Jerusalem to proclaim liberty unto them, that every man should let his manservant and every man his maidservant, being a Hebrew or a Hebrewess, go free, that none should serve himself of them, to wit, of Yehudim his brother.
So this is atonement. He's proclaiming that Jubilee, let everybody go. Everybody that was in bondage, let him go. Go ahead.
Now when all the princes and all the people which had entered into the covenant heard that everyone should let his manservant and everyone his maidservant go free, that none should serve themselves of them any more, then they obeyed and let them go.
So they let him go. Yeah, we did what you said to do. But when you just release somebody, even in jail, when they release you, try to, give you some kind of guidance. Here you go. You can go here, get a job here, do this, go get some public assistance, do this, do that. But they just let him go. So I let him go. I did what you said. So where's the fault in that? Go ahead.
But afterward they turned and caused the servants and the handmaids whom they had let go free to return, and brought them into subjection for servants and for handmaids. Therefore the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of Yasharal, I made a covenant with your fathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondmen, saying, At the end of 7 years, let you go every man his brother a Hebrew, which has been sold unto you. And when he has served you 6 years, you shall let him go free from you. But your fathers hearkened not unto me, neither inclined their ear.
So they didn't listen. The forefathers didn't listen. This is why we getting ready the sins of our forefathers. And then now the children doing the same thing. But then now the king is like, nah, we going to correct this. We going to let it go. But that's not enough. Just letting them go is not enough because of what you think a poor person is going to do. You let the poor person go, he going to come right back to you because you got food. He don't know anything else. Go ahead.
15. Verse 15. And you were now turned and had done right in my sight, in proclaiming liberty every man to his neighbor. And you had made a covenant before me in the house which is called by my name. But you turned and polluted my name, and caused every man his servant and every man his handmaid, whom you had set at liberty at their pleasure, to return, and brought them into subjection to be for you servants and for handmaids.
But Yah's blaming them. But you turned and polluted my name, and caused every man his servant and every man his handmaid, whom you set at liberty at their pleasure, to return. You caused them to return, but we playing games. Oh, no, we didn't. I let them go, Yah. What you mean? Nah, we knew what was in your heart. If you really wanted that man to have freedom, then you would have empowered him. You would have gave him some food. You would have gave him a job. You would have showed him where to go. You would have allowed him to work and say, here, I'm going to give you a portion in the field. Take that. Get on your feet. Build something for your family. Go back here. Buy your inheritance. You work for me for 50 years or you work for me for 49 years or 7 years, however long it was. Man, I can't give you some kind of retirement for doing this? Nah. Let him go.
Verse 17.
Go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, he said, would have a top people in this country if a slave was set free. You couldn't go anywhere because they didn't give him any money and like that, but yet, what was he going to do? He was a slave almost all his life, and now he has a family, a wife and children and so forth on the plantation, but they're not free. Well, what are you going to do, just walk away and leave him? No.
Right.
He winds up putting himself in servitude, and they wind up putting the altar in, put a gold ring in his head because he decided to become a slave on his own behalf, when really it was kind of coerced because the man ain't going to leave his family that they love, his wife and his children. So if they want to have a jubilee for the man, release him and his family. Give him some money so he can go about and do what he got to do. You know what I mean? Because riches off the man already, but no, that was not the case in this country. They always had a way to manipulate keeping you a slave.
Right. Absolutely. Can you go ahead and switch phones?
Jeremiah chapter 34 and verse 17. Therefore thus says Yahweh, you have not hearkened unto me in proclaiming liberty, every one to his brother and every man to his neighbor. Behold, I proclaim a liberty for you, says Yahweh, to the sword, to the pestilence, and to the famine. And I will make you to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
Where are you going to be removed?
Into all the kingdoms of the
Or
earth.
are we just going to be removed to America? We were removed into all kingdoms of the earth. So that lets you know the 12 tribe flag of everybody is from you. If you live here, you from this tribe. It's false. Can't be. Because ain't only 12 kingdoms in the earth. It don't add up. And furthermore, we know Judah alone has been dispersed into all over the earth. So Judah alone can't just be in the United States. But we want want to wear it like a football jersey. Mm-hmm. We want to say, okay, I'm Judah, I'm this, so let me just wear this flag. It don't work that way. It don't line up with the scriptures. I don't care who dreamt it.
Verse 18, and I will give the men that have transgressed my covenant, which have not performed the words of the covenant which they had made before me, when they cut the calf in two and passed between the parts thereof. The princes of Yehuda and the princes of Jerusalem, the eunuchs and the priests, and all the people of the land which passed between the parts of the calf. And I will I will even give them into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life. And their dead bodies shall be for meat unto the fowls of the heaven, and to the beasts of the earth. And Zedekiah king of Yehuda and his princes will I give unto the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life, and into the hand of the king of Babylon's army, which are gone up from you. Behold, I will command, says Yahweh, and cause them to return to this city, and they shall fight against it, and take it, and burn it with fire. And I will make the city of Yehuda a desolation without inhabitant.
All right, so let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to Matthew chapter 16. It's the end of the day. It all reconciles back into this word, into the Mashiach. If you want to be about this word, and you want to be so-called Christian or whatever you want to call that, if you want to be Christ-like, then you're going to have to deny yourself. This word forces you to deny yourself. So atonement is a daily, as a day practice where you are denying yourself for one entire calendar day. So if you can do it for one entire calendar day, you show that you can be spiritual for a day. So if you can be spiritual for a day, you can be spiritual for 2 days, or for 2 years, or for the rest of your life. It's possible. Mashiach had to come in the flesh to show that it was possible. So he came in the flesh and walked every day like that, to show you, nah, you acting like you asking me to do something that you can't do. Nah, he did it. He a man just like everybody else. He suffer, he cry, he hurt, he get angry, but yet he didn't sin. So that showed that the human body can do that if you allow the spirit to make the decisions instead of your flesh, like an animal. Matthew chapter 16, and we're just going to read 21 through 28 for the conclusion.
From that time forth began Yahshua to show unto his disciples how that he must go up unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. Then Kepha took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from you, master, this shall not be unto you. But he turned and said unto Kepha, Get you behind me, Satan. You are an offense unto me, for you savor not the things that be of Elohim, but those that be of men. Then said Yahshua unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his stake, and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it. And what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Verily I say unto you, there shall be some standing here which shall not taste of death, till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
So verse 27, he shall reward every man according to his works, not according to, well, I like this guy. According to his bloodline, I'm going to reward you according to your deeds, your life, how you live. When he's saying works, not saying according to how many hospitals you build and put St. Jude on it. Now, according to whether you kept the commandments or not. And verse 24, if any man will follow me, let him deny himself and take up that burden and follow me. So we have to deny ourselves and deal with the burden that's going to come with that in our daily life. So on atonement, we are getting the benefit of getting our sins wiped away. So you're going to have to bear the burden of your transgression. You're supposed to die. But instead, you're going to suffer for one day. And not eating for one day, at first, it's kind of hard. But after a while, that doesn't even really bother you. What really bothers you is all that crying and all that looking at that ugly face that you don't like. That's what really bothers you. So at the end of the day, we have to learn how to deny our flesh, because your flesh is subject to spiritual possession, subject to a spirit of lust, the spirit of envy, the spirit of greed, the spirit of anger, the spirit of just confusion. All of that is subject to that will make your flesh feel a certain way. But if you can allow the Holy Spirit, the comforter, to tell you, nah, that's right, nah, that's wrong. If you allow that to guide you, then you can control the flesh and you can do less error. So this is what this whole day is about, is to focus on how can we do less error and to accept the mercy that the Father has given us, because we forsake Yah's mercy by heeding to lying vanities, by lying to the Father. Father, if I might have, stolen something or lied to somebody, I'm sorry. That's a lying vanity. It feel good. It feel like you confessed, but you didn't tell the truth. Or you believe that you didn't have to reconcile that because you see other people doing it. So let's be honest with ourselves today. If you're not going to be honest with anybody else, at least be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Stop painting that picture that you want to be, and look at what you truly are so you can become what it is that you want to be. And this day forces us to do that. Jonathan, you got anything for closing?
Yeah, pray that we all continue to, remain humble, come before Yah, seeking his pleasure, seeking to do Yah's pleasure and not our own. And not necessarily be disheartened by the holy day, but look at it as motivation toward your justification. It's the right thing to do.
Calm. So that's all. Yeah, comment?
Yeah. How expedient is it to read on atonement, like to read the word?
Oh, you definitely read the word. You saw what they were doing? They were reading the word. You definitely. This is what helps you. We read the word to see what we're doing wrong. It's like when you have perfection and you comparing it. Say, we supposed to be drawing a picture of something. You draw it by memory, you do a pretty good job. But when you comparing and you looking and you drawing, you can do a lot better. So we definitely you read. It allows you to. It's a good spiritual time because the Father's hearing you. It's a good spiritual time for you to gain insight and gain understanding. And just reading, you'll see other transgression that you did that you didn't even really know was a transgression. So definitely should be heavily in your reading on that day. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? All right. Let's go ahead and close in a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. And all sisters pray with their heads fully covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. Brother Jonathan, can you close us out in prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, Yah, we thank you, Yahweh. Even though we come before you unworthily, O Yah, we look towards you for our justification. And we afflict our souls during this holy day, Yahweh, during this Yom Kippur. Yahweh, we pray you continue to be with us. Allow us to look upon ourselves and look upon our iniquities, Yahweh. And look upon how to improve on our behavior moving forward, O Yah. Let us continue to try our best to represent you, O Yahweh. And when we fall in line with your plan of salvation, understanding the sacrifice of your Son and what it means, O Yah, to actually be disciples of the light that you have sent into the world. We thank you, Yahweh, and we bless your name, and may you continue to be with us for the rest of this year. In Yahshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Remember not to accidentally eat anything, because it happens, or the danger of it happening is real.
Mm-hmm.